Hello and welcome back to the Nest and Inside the Iggles live show. Thank you guys very much for joining us today on Monday, January 22nd. We had a good football weekend, and we're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Eagles news. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Brandon Pockris. Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. Not doing too bad at all. We got some news. We got yesterday during the Chiefs Bills game. Who I got the screenshot here from the tweet. Tom Pelissero, senior defensive assistant Matt Patricia is not under contract and plans to explore other opportunities. Sources tell me in Rap Sheet. Patricia took on play calling last month under difficult circumstances, running someone else's scheme with the depleted unit. He'll be a top DC candidate. And that's marketing, baby.
No, I don't think marketing is the right word. I think hey, we got this news from an agent. Why don't you put something good out there for our client?
My God. That's what did the like, because the way that this works is that the agent gives the national guy news and says, hey, spin it this way and I'll continue to give you the news. That way you can do positive PR for us. And Matt Patricia's agent is like, maybe people just didn't watch football this year.
Well, you want to know what that is? That is your atypical, the defensive coordinator got fired. I inherited this mess. I did what I could. I couldn't make it work. Oh no, but once I get to my next job, which let's face it, is going to be with Bill Belichick in Atlanta, no one's going to be surprised by that.
Yep.
Now it's like, oh, I have my own unit and I'll be okay again.
That's like, then if that's the situation, who is he trying to jazz up there? Because if he knows that it's going to be with Bill, then like, you don't have to. He could just have it be a middle finger emoji and be like, all right, that's good enough.
He's trying to jazz up the Falcons fans that are going to be irate when Belichick just brings in Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia, and it basically turns into Patriots South, but just, not the glory years, more so the past three to 4 years.
I want to check something on this one more time. Is there, like, I just want to look at the capital letters. So EMP, P. Okay, so it doesn't like spell like help or like go Falcons or anything like that. It's just a normal. That's you got to decode it sometimes. Maybe Tom Pelissero is smarter than everybody. But yeah, I thought that was just so funny, man. Like, you can't, like, what it's Matt Patricia. The guy's an asshole. We've known he's an asshole forever. That's his thing. He's a dick.
Well, that wasn't the only coordinator news that we got.
It was not. Okay, I want to do an act out real quick. So Sean Desai formally got fired. I want to do an act out. Formally, yeah. I want to do an act out real quick. All right, I'm going to be Sean Desai. I want you to be Nick Sirianni telling me that I'm fired.
Okay, right now?
Yep, ready to go.
All right, Sean, defense wasn't up to our standards. We're going to have to tell you you're fired, unfortunately.
No shit. That's it. That's how that goes. Like, you put him in a booth a month and a half ago. Like, yeah, he knows, dude. You didn't have to say it.
You basically put the guy in timeout, or the equivalent of like an NFL coaching staff's timeout, where we're gonna take away play calling duties, but you still have your title in name only, basically. Where it's like this was all but a formality, and yet that was not the only coordinator news from the Eagles, because this team just keeps itself busy.
Yeah, we get the reports. I can't remember who did the reports, but the reports are that
Derek Gunn.
Was it Derek Gunn? Derek Gunn said that the Eagles are going to move. What is this phrase? Go away from.
I have the tweet pulled up. It said all indications are Brian Johnson will not be returning as the Eagles OC. He will land elsewhere in some offensive capacity.
Okay, so what are your initial thoughts on that? Are you okay with them not running it back with him? What are yours?
I have two initial thoughts.
Okay.
One, okay, I'm fine with it.
Yes.
Just overall everything, I'm fine with it. Number two, And this could be a conversation we get to now, or we get to once the new coordinators are hired. The first thing that's popping into my head is this we're changing everything but the head coach to see if the head coach is the guy moves?
I believe I have an answer for you when we get there.
Okay. Because I'm seeing all this. You're getting rid of borderline the entire defensive staff, or a good chunk of it, or the main people. You're getting rid of the main people on the offensive side of the staff. It's not really leaving much to the imagination about what some of the future issues might hold if they pop up, right? And it also means that they're committed to this current regime to try to fix the issues. So you can spin it either way. You can take different perspectives, but it's basically coming down to, and we can pick this up later once we discuss more of the coordinator stuff. I think it's basically coming down to, hey, Nick, we're changing basically everything coordinator wise. Whoever you bring in next is going to either sink you or keep you afloat.
Yeah. Now, when you say, I should have clarified this. When you say when they're changing the offense, are you saying like changing the scheme, or are you saying changing like the actual people and the coaches?
I'm saying more so the coaches, right? Because
Okay.
at the end of the day, everything we've heard, this is Sirianni's scheme, right?
Yes.
So in that case, if you're changing out a coordinator because of a lack of success or whatever your clarification they want to use, that they will probably use at the press conference when they have it, if you're bringing in a guy but running the same scheme, that buck now is going to fall fully on you.
Oh yeah.
Because now you are bringing in another guy to run the scheme. And if you have similar problems, guess what? That falls on the head coach now.
Oh yeah, and it should have the entire time. Now, okay, I have a question. So some of the reports going around are saying that there maybe Brian Johnson wasn't calling the offense that Sirianni wanted, and then there's the talk of like Jalen freelancing and then like changing plays near the end of the season, some of those kinds of things. One thing that Sirianni was incredibly adamant about in the press conferences is that it was his offense. Now, here's my question. Knowing Nick Sirianni, knowing that he's willing to take the buck for anybody, well, for the players at least, when he's saying this is my offense, is he saying that as like I'm covering, this is my fault, or is he saying this is my offense as a no, this is my offense? Don't say what Brian Johnson's doing is my offense. My offense is my offense. What Brian Johnson's is doing is Brian Johnson's offense. Which way do you fall on that? Did that kind of make sense?
I think with these types of coaches, and when I say these types of coaches, I mean the guys that won't say anything to the media, but will do stuff and actions that reflect how they feel. Basically, actions speak louder than words. And I think them getting rid of Brian Johnson a year after hiring him is one of those scenarios, right? Sirianni can say whatever he wants to the media, and things are going to be taken and twisted and, put in a certain way because he's the one saying them, right? But what his actions are reflecting may be completely different from what he's actually saying. What those actions are reflecting are, at least in Brian Johnson's case, hey, either one, this didn't work out between us, or hey, I'm putting a lot of those issues on you, and specifically you, because whether you chalk it up to lack of rhythm, lack of, getting Jalen easy passes, lack of RPOs, similar to what like you want to run through a list, right?
Yep.
This move is signaling that a lot of that blame and a lot of those issues is being put on the Johnson. Now, if you have those same issues next year with a different guy, this is a completely different conversation.
So we're saying that Sirianni's got some issues with his Johnson.
It
happens to men of that age.
Yeah, you could say that.
That's what I'm going to say. It's funny. Okay, now the thing with getting rid of Brian Johnson, saying that the Eagles aren't going to move forward, or going. What was the actual tweet? What was the phrasing of the tweet? Like not returning Brian, moving away from.
So the actual phrasing was he will not be returning as the offense coordinator, and he will land elsewhere in some offensive capacity.
Okay, so the thing with this is that Brian Johnson, I brought this up on Friday's show. Brian Johnson has had 3 different head coaching spots, head coaching interviews. And one of the head coaching interviews at the Titans, I believe it is, they're also interviewing Aaron Glenn. Because people's initial thoughts with this is just a Rooney Rule interview. Like they're just like there's nobody in nobody's right mind would they see what Brian Johnson did this year and be like, that's a guy that we want to be a head coach. That's their thought. But with Aaron Glenn also being interviewed at Tennessee, that kind of is counterintuitive to that. Now, what that means is that if the Eagles aren't going to fire Brian Johnson, they're going to wait and see what happens with the coaching cycle in order to see if the Titans do get him. The Eagles will get, is it 1 or 2 compensatory picks? Do you remember?
I think it's 1.
Whatever it is, they're valuable picks.
I'm not sure.
Picks. They're like end of the 3rd round, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's value to this, and especially on a team that needs serious help at positions on defense. Those are incredibly valuable picks. But they would be for the 2025 draft. So it's still a long ways in the future. It's something that Howie Roseman is looking at because Howie Roseman's not on the hot seat or anything like that. So this leads to a list of offensive coordinator candidates. I have 3, right? Yes, I have 3 right here. Do you have any offensive coordinator candidates that you could think of for this Eagles team? Or do you want me to go through my 3?
I want to hear your list because I'm gonna go off your list and be like, all right, what are we looking for here?
Okay. 3. Number 1 is going to be Frank Reich. Frank Reich, we all know his connection to the team, Super Bowl offensive coordinator, and he's with Sirianni Sirianni was with him in Indianapolis, and he's like Nick's hero or something like that. So the thought could be Frank Reich. Another one, Jim Bob Cooter. He was a consultant with besides a truly hilarious name, a consultant with the Eagles in 21. He was the Colts offensive coordinator this year. He was the Jags passing game coordinator in 22, so with Doug. And he was the offensive quality control coach in Kansas City in 2012 when Nick Sirianni was their wide receivers coach. So those are, 4 connections to the Eagles organization. The last one I have, and I did not come up. These are ones that I've seen people throw around, but these are honestly like the 3 most interesting ones, is Jim Caldwell, who was the Ravens offensive coordinator in 2013 when they won a Super Bowl. Or I guess that was 2012, but he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, Lions head coach in 17, Dolphins quarterback coach in 19. He was the assistant advisor with the Panthers from 22 and 23. And then he was the Colts head coach. I should have said this first chronologically. Colts head coach in 2009 to 2011, which I believe before that he was like a quarterback's coach for the Colts. So he went to the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning as well, and won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. The connection there would potentially be Frank Reich, and I'm thinking Jim Caldwell would be more of a offensive advisor rather than a head coach. If Frank Reich likes him enough to keep him as an assistant and an advisor at the Panthers last year, I think if Frank Reich is the offensive coordinator, then he could have Jim Caldwell come in to be a advisor in that role too. Do those things make sense?
I'm a big fan of Caldwell. I always felt like Caldwell I think he was he was in Detroit last?
Detroit, yeah, in 2017.
Yeah, I always felt like he got a bad rap after because he was doing pretty well.
Yeah, he took a year off after that. And the next job he landed was the QB coach for Miami.
Yeah, he was doing. I thought he was doing pretty good in his last stop, and I always liked his offenses. Like they weren't, these like over the top, motion heavy, just a lot of just trying to confuse the defense, but they were always effective. They were always, good enough to allow the star players to take over and to keep the ball moving and really end up as pretty good offenses. Frank Reich is an interesting one because, we know the good of Frank Reich.
Right.
We've seen it. But how much of that Carolina offense from this past year are you putting on him? So you have that balance. And then Jim Bob Cooter seems like it would just be a hire to keep it, quote unquote, in the family because he was with Steichen. Steichen's obviously connected to Sirianni. How much input is he giving with that offense? Is he actually like running his offense, or is Sirianni basically like giving him the book and being like, just call the play? Like,
that's what I think that would be.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the move where Sirianni is just like, all right, this is my complete offense, and I'm just having someone just press the buttons.
And that's kind of why I think he to me, it's probably 40% Cooter, 40% Reich. Right now, 40% Cooter, 40% Reich, 20% Caldwell in my brain because of that specifically.
My favorite candidate out of those is probably Caldwell.
Okay.
Just because of like his history. And my favorite idea, I would say, is Caldwell with Reich in like a senior offensive assistant role where he just oversees the offense and just helps, let's say, I don't know, Jalen Hurts get even more comfortable with the offense.
Yeah.
And understands maybe some of the nooks and crannies of it that maybe Sirianni and Johnson weren't doing a great job of teaching. Where even that marginal impact that he brings is elevating the offense. And shoot, even if Jim Bob Cooter gets the offensive coordinator role, I still would want Reich in that capacity, right? Because
get guys that Sirianni likes around him.
And more importantly, guys that have been around the game. And I feel like Reich is, I don't know if he's the perfect person to be in this position, but I don't know if you're getting much better than him in a senior offensive assistant or offensive coordinator, in the sense of, I feel like he is the type of guy that'll help Jalen eliminate a lot of the things that plagued him this past year. The things that weren't on Brian Johnson, the being a little skittish in the pocket and maybe holding onto the ball too much. By having a guy that played quarterback and has been around quarterbacks and at one point even had the reputation of a quarterback whisperer, however cliche you think that term is, it does hold some value. I think having that guy in there, in addition to your offensive coordinator addition, I think that's just very important to this Eagles team.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, he was able to make Carson Wentz not a goddamn lunatic. So there's definitely something to that. To go back to that Cooter thing, if there is a guy that's going to be, if you're going to learn to be an offensive coordinator, doing it under Shane Steichen's the way to do it. That's my thought there. You would like to see him spend maybe more than one season there. And learn more, but I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying. I do the Jim Caldwell thing that does the way that because you said it the opposite. I said Frank Reich with Jim Caldwell as an assistant. You said Caldwell with Reich as an assistant. I think that I do like that. That's intriguing.
My whole thing with Reich is, I feel like if you want him to have the biggest possible value, you kind of have him as that assistant head coach.
Right.
I'm saying that in air quotes because I don't know if I'm necessarily just giving him that title, but where one day he helps Jalen, and then one day he's helping the wide receivers, and then one day he's like just sitting with Sirianni and going over, like just having him in that capacity where he can just help that entire offense.
Yeah.
I personally feel like is more valuable than him just being pigeonholed as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, use him as a
because
tool instead of having him be the guy who uses tools.
exactly.
Okay. I like that. Did you have any other names that you were thinking too?
Not at the moment because it's like I feel like until you have the head coaching landscape more sorted out,
Oh yeah.
the offensive coordinator stuff is just weird because, for example, right? Let's say a really good offensive coordinator is interviewing for head coaching jobs but doesn't get that job. Maybe you have a chance to poach an offensive coordinator. So there's candidates that could become available, or maybe there's a surprise firing, or someone gets promoted in turn. Like there's a lot of different things that can happen
Right.
throughout the league where that can make, those decisions more difficult, or that can make it a lot easier.
Yeah, no, I mean, that kind of plays into this whole thing, kind of working out a little bit with the Brian Johnson, the fact that you want to flesh out the landscape, and
Yes.
Brian Johnson being there, and he's part of the landscape at the moment. So that does kind of work, and that's these three names. They're not the names that are thrown out as like the next flashy guy. So if it does come to a time where a team hires a head coach and they want to get things filled, you're not get the coordinators filled below them. You're not exactly like looking at like, it's not like who's Jim Harbaugh going to bring with him? Oh, he's probably going to snag Jim Bob Cooter. Like it's not that kind of a like these are the guys that could work and have the connections to the Eagles. So I think that's kind of just the it's not a terrible situation. It's not
No,
great, but it's not terrible.
it's also a matter of like, and I think we kind of alluded to this. What does Sirianni want in his offensive coordinator?
You know, that's a question. I don't know if he knows what he wants. The guy's a lunatic.
But that, like, I know we joke about it, but that is going to be such a critical aspect of what happens, because if he wants someone to bring in their own offense or their own voice, then those are completely different candidates than quote unquote keeping it in the family and having that same, Steichen, Sirianni esque offense.
Yeah, it'll be odd. And they're Sirianni and Nick and Howie are doing a press conference tomorrow. Maybe we'll get a little bit of insight on what's going on. I doubt it.
Doubt it.
Doubt it. If there is anything that we will learn from this, it'll be one of those things where Nick Sirianni's trying to say nothing, but then he lets something slip that is incredibly telling. Things like when he I keep going back to this because he really tried to hide it, but did a terrible job. When Christian McCaffrey called the play on the Manning cast, and Sirianni goes, no, we never run that play out of that formation before. We were just trying to get it to 4th and short. And then you hear we're just trying to get it to 4th and short, and we're like, well, what the hell are you talking about, you goddamn moron? So he could let something slip by that, but him sitting next to his boss might keep him a little bit more uptight.
So I know this is a different situation, and it was a different situation. Is there any shot that this is a Doug Peterson scenario again?
Doug Peterson got fired 8 days after the end of that season. Tomorrow will be the 8th day. And if they're already planning the press conference, I don't think so.
So probably not. Yeah.
Probably not. I did see that the Buccaneers did their end of the season press conference today. And like their season ended yesterday, and like they already got on it.
What do you think the reason is that they waited so long to have an end of year press conference when they got eliminated from the playoffs last week?
I mean, they're just all the hubbub and bullshit going on with this. Like, and they're gonna do something. Be like, we wouldn't announce that we're keeping Nick Sirianni, and that's stupid. That's some don't blow smoke up my ass. Like, don't do that. Don't give that to me. Like they're I mean, they had a lot of discussions. And then also it doesn't help that apparently there's like logistical issues with when Nick was supposed to meet with Howie last Thursday or something like that. So it took a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to flesh out. And it didn't help that the game was on Monday. It's a travel day. They get home late on Tuesday. Then locker clean out is on Wednesday. He has to have a conversation with Howie. He has to have a conversation with Jeff Lurie, and then logistical things. I don't necessarily. I think that this getting put off to this long can be, it can be logical. I think it's dumb, but it can be logical.
I'm not saying that, this is like, oh, the sky's falling because the Eagles are having their press conference a week after their season technically ended, right?
Right.
It's just not what you normally see from any team, where it's
Ever.
like the Buccaneers thing you brought up. Normally it's you get eliminated and it's the next day.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's dumb. It's dumb, and this is just the way that this organization runs because nobody knows what the hell is going on. I have this same kind of thing that we can do for defensive coordinators first, but as a little call it a chaser to the offensive coordinator conversation. I have a running theory. So we know. You've seen this, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. The new Super Bowl logos are terrible. Like, they're much worse than the ones like when they started just going with this copy paste format, fill it in with colors. That's
I personally loved the original ones for like each stadium and each but it probably stopped once they started going like back and forth between like LA every year.
Right. So here's my theory. All right. If this Super Bowl does become Ravens and the 49ers, they normally like release the next Super Bowl's logo like the same week. So that means that this logo, the logo for Super Bowl, what would that be? 59 has already been made. Okay. I think this would go well with it going up to Super Bowl 60. I think Super Bowl 60, we're going to start seeing the new like specialized Super Bowl logos. Does that make sense?
I hope that'd be cool.
Because this can't be.
No, it can't be.
It can't be. Like it simply cannot. So that's my theory. My theory is that if the Ravens and the 49ers do make it to the Super Bowl, I think that we're going to see. That is a impromptu Jake's take, if you will. Impromptu in the fact that I already had this picture loaded up and I was planning on doing this. So not impromptu at all. All right. As far as defensive coordinators go, do you want me to go through a list again, or do you have guys? Okay. All right, this will be a little bit longer. Stop me if you have any insight or anything like that. So, 1, Leslie Frazier. He was the Bills. I'll say what his thing was and then how his connection is to the Eagles. Leslie Frazier, Bills defensive coordinator in 2022. They got rid of him at the very beginning of the calendar year of 2023. He was the Eagles defensive back coach from 1999 to 2002. All right, that's Leslie Frazier. Next one, Denard Wilson, and this is in no particular order. Denard Wilson, he's the Ravens DB's coach now. He was the Eagles DB's coach last year. They probably should have hired him to be the defensive coordinator this year. I guess he was kind of soured on that. I know Darius Slay was kind of soured on that, on them not keeping.
He was what do you call it? I think he was with the Jets before the Eagles poached him, right? Or was that?
Let me see. Oh, shoot. Let me see. I have Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson, going backwards in time. Ravens, Eagles, Jets from 19 to 20. And Jets from 17 to 20. And before that, St. Louis and LA Rams.
Yeah, because I mean, from what I've read, Wilson's he's a very well respected defensive coach, very highly regarded, and quite frankly, and we'll get to the other candidates. You need a defensive coordinator that's focused on the back seven, mainly the secondary, right? So someone that's good at scheming up secondary, someone that's good at coaching it, someone that knows what needs to be coached up and what needs to be focused on and what specific traits need to be prioritized in upcoming signings and draft picks. Because if that gets solved, so much of the Eagles' issues on offense get solved, or on defense get solved.
So does that mean that you were not a fan, like when people were saying Ryan Nielsen?
I like Nielsen because
he was a D-line guy. Like he played on the D-line when he did play.
It's not a 1-for-1 though, because the Falcons secondary was pretty good this season.
I'd say overperformed, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, Denard Wilson, I mean, you've watched the I mean, hell, in the second half of that game was that on Saturday? I mean, they shut down CJ Stroud. It was that I love Denard Wilson. I don't think he'll come back because I think he's soured by the situation. And to be fair, I would be too.
And also, right, if you brought Wilson back, now he might be bringing some of those things that Mike Macdonald has done. And maybe you're getting a Mike Macdonald type scheme with Wilson, which it's one of the best defensive schemes I've seen in the NFL in recent memory. He's getting all this production out of veterans and low draft picks to the point where that could easily be applied to a lot of what the Eagles have.
And he would do the kind of thing that Desai said that he wanted, where he wanted the defense to be violent, and instead they missed all the tackles in the world.
Yeah.
So you could have that going. Did you have anything on Leslie Frazier?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Just he's an older guy. And then next one.
Well, with Frazier, he's a steady coach. Like, you know what you're getting from him, and he's not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Let me pull up his thing real quick. Leslie Frazier. Bills, Ravens, Bucks, the Vikings head coach in 2011 to 2013. I mean, the guy's just, he's career. He's just all you really want is you can win a Super Bowl with an average defense, and Leslie Frazier could probably provide that rather than taking a gamble on Sean Desai. Vic Fangio, you kind of have to see what happens with the Dolphins for that one, because he's still currently their DC. His connection to the Eagles, he was the defensive assistant or advisor in 2022 to Gannon, and Gannon runs a Fangio adjacent defense.
Do you worry about the Eagles not having the personnel to run that scheme?
Never thought about that. But now that you say that, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
That is, yes. Yes. 100%. Yep. Didn't think about that. 100% agree.
Because with the Fangio scheme, I think the biggest drawback is when you have someone trying to run that defense without the correct personnel. And specifically, if you don't upgrade significantly in the secondary.
Huge times. Yeah. Like Pro Bowl, all pro, like adjacent players.
I wouldn't even say that, but just a considerable step up from, potentially washed up James Bradbury.
Potentially. Very loose read on the word potentially. He's pretty washed. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. Because, I mean, that's what we had last year with a Fangio or in 2022 with the Fangio adjacent defense. You had CJ Gardner-Johnson. You had these guys that were playing nails. Like that. That's a good point. Okay. I'm going to save that one for last. Mike Caldwell. Just got fired from being the Jags defensive coordinator, which is where that Ryan Nielsen went in. But he was the Eagles linebackers coach from 2011 to 2012 is the connection there.
I'd probably pass on that.
What if we got a Caldwell and Caldwell? A Jim and Mike.
It's not to say that I dislike Caldwell's defense. It's just
that was the weakest part of their team.
Yeah, it was the weakest part of their team, and specifically their weaknesses match up well with the Eagles having a weak secondary. So I'd be worried unless you completely renovate the depth and the starters for that unit.
Which is hard to believe.
Hard to do in one off season,
right?
Let alone, half of one, right?
Yeah.
But where if that doesn't improve, are you now running into the same issues that you basically had where the offense has to carry the entire team and the secondary is getting torched? Now, that's not the good, and this is the unknown part. We don't know what adjustments would be made. We don't know how his defense would change from being in Jacksonville to going to Philly.
Right.
But are you willing to take that risk? And more specifically, is Nick Sirianni willing to take that risk?
Yeah, because now all of a sudden we're talking about Sirianni's job dependent on this stuff.
Yes.
That's a good point. Next one, fun one. Don Wink Martindale.
This is probably the most fun candidate, right? Because
chaotic for sure.
It would be incredible to see him letting, and this is obviously presuming that the veterans for the Eagles defense comes back, but just letting Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Reddick and Sweat literally just try to rip off the offensive line's heads on every single play. Here's the problem. Unless you have good cornerbacks, you might have even worse secondary performances than what you had this year. It would be chaotic. You probably would force some good turnovers, but you're probably giving up a lot of yards.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, that one to me, that one, that is more of a Wink Martindale hates Brian Daboll, because there was I don't know if maybe this holds water. Maybe it's even if it's half true, of a quarter true of the thoughts of the Brian Daboll not talking to Wink Martindale, Brian Daboll cussing out Wink Martindale behind closed doors.
I mean, he did leave. He did leave.
He did leave, and I believe he a tirade on his way out or something along those lines. I can't remember what the phrasing was, but I think that would be a Wink Martindale just wants to hurt Daniel Jones. I think that could be that one. But the benefit of this, actually, I'm going to save that for the end because there is a common denominator between a handful of these guys. Keep in mind what I said Mike Caldwell's job was with the Eagles. The last one that I have, Ron Rivera.
How do you feel about this?
I don't hate it. I don't
either
like it. I don't hate it though. I've seen people's argument for not liking it be like, well, what happens if you hire an ex head coach and have him being a coordinator? Then they could just get rid of Sirianni. Like, why would Sirianni want to do that? Well, Nick, you made this bed, stupid. Like, he could get fired halfway through the season, then we could be stuck with Riverboat Ron. Number one, that ain't gonna happen. If Riverboat, like, he would not be the de facto head coach. What do you think about it?
Last time Rivera was strictly a coordinator, he called a very, very good defense.
In 2010 for the Chargers.
Yes. He is a very, very good coordinator. He's been a very good head coach at times, more so up and down than anything. But you could do a lot worse than Ron Rivera as your defensive coordinator. I'll just leave it at that.
Give me one. I saw somebody tweeted this out. I might fight back on him being a very, very good defensive coordinator. Because it's really, to me, yes, in 2010 it was a great defense. I thought he had a good stint after being fired by the Panthers before he got the Commanders job. When he was a Panther, because he went straight from Panthers to Commanders.
There was no gap?
No, Panthers 2011 to 2019, Commanders 2020 to 2023.
Okay.
But when he was with the Chargers in 2018, he was tied for 17th in the league, allowing 5.4 yards per play, and tied 16th in the league for points per game at 20 point. This is hard. This doesn't make sense to read out loud. but it seems
It's
a little.
It's more average. It's more.
Yeah,
more
it seems a little bit. He's kind of middle of the ground there. Like it kind of varied year to year, and I don't know that much about the Panthers defense in the 2010s, like the personnel and everything. I know Luke Kuechly was a guy, and I don't know anything about the Chargers defense 2008, 2009, 2010. But again, if you average it out, again, middle of the road, and again, average defense can win a Super Bowl. But as far as his thing, Commander's head coach, obviously, like we said, hasn't called plays in a minute. Connection to the Eagles. He was the linebackers coach from 1999 to 2003, which leads me to the mind blowing, the franchise changing, history debunking, trend breaking realization. We're looking at Ron Rivera, linebacker coach for the Eagles. We're looking at Mike Caldwell, linebacker coach for the Eagles. Wink Martindale wanting to blitz a lot. Eagles drafting a linebacker?
You want to know what the most ironic part about that entire thing is? This is one of the weaker linebacker classes. According to like draft scouts, this is one of the weaker linebacker classes in the past few years.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
I'd rather them draft a corner, truly.
Yeah, but it would be cool. Is my point.
Yeah,
how cool would that be?
But
to have a good line, to draft a good linebacker.
Do you know he's going to be good though? I'd rather take my shot at corner.
Yes, but it's Jeremiah Trotter's son. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s son is good. These two things are equal. Asante Samuel Jr. Good.
1 second. Hold on.
What other juniors can we think of? Arch Manning, maybe.
I mean, that's not a junior though.
Well, family.
Nephew, I guess.
It's blood in. That's all I'm saying. I think that depending on which coach they get,
is that what you want though?
Want them to get a linebacker, to draft a linebacker with a high pick? Kinda. You have 2 second-round picks.
I'd rather you go linebacker in like the second, first round where they're picking. There's going to be a really good cornerback there. So it's like I'm not passing on that. Where it's like second round, I'll definitely pull the trigger on a linebacker. Hey, maybe Trotter's there in the second round. You never know.
And I think the Saints pick is the 50th pick overall, so it's middle of the round.
And if you want, trade up.
That's fair too. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think, and even if it is a second round pick for a linebacker, like I'm thinking that there is a possibility that there could be valuable draft capital spent on a position that we wouldn't normally see. But to counter your point, when's the last time the Eagles drafted a corner, like with a high pick?
It has to be a focus. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily acceptable to go offense again. Now, you could sell me on it. Yeah. But that's more of, in my eyes, the second, third, fourth round. That first round, it needs to be defense. And specifically secondary help or linebacker help, but really just secondary help.
That's what it needs to be. I think it'll end up being a replacement for a vet on the offensive line. Which, that's where we're at, unfortunately. Unless Jason comes back.
Lots of time.
Obviously, it depends on whether or not Jason Kelce does come back. I'm still saying no, especially seeing after what we saw last night. I want Jason to continue to enjoy retirement. That guy had so much fun.
He did not look like someone that was very concerned with staying in shape.
No, he did not. No.
That is about the best way I can put that
Go
without
looking at that picture.
without getting straight to the point.
Looking at that picture and then looking at the difference between that and when they did the ESPN the naked edition, glaring. Let's say the differences are glaring is probably the way that we're going to put that. But that was fun watching him do that. I enjoyed that. I on the level of down to earth. So on the down to earth scale, I'm going to put Jason as a 10. And I'm going to say Taylor Swift, probably a 1. And the fact that he was like holding up children from the crowd for the Bills and like letting them see Taylor Swift, she couldn't have been into that, right?
No. All right. So, breaking news.
Oh, no.
And this might go to what we were talking about. So, the Titans are, according to Schefter, hiring Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan as their next head coach.
Okay.
Does that mean anything for the Eagles? Or
what were the three teams that Brian Johnson I think Brian Johnson's going to be gone.
Yeah.
I think it could hurt the compensation or the compensatory picks and stuff like that. But I think he interviewed at like the Titans. He interviewed at the Falcons
and the Panthers.
In the Panthers?
Yes.
It would be the most Panthers thing to do to hire another Eagles offensive coordinator.
Yes, it would.
But that's pretty much the only thing I have going on that.
I like the Callahan hiring for Tennessee. Actually, I like that a lot.
Let's see. Yeah, they hired him after like one interview too, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it definitely, yeah. I'd say the only thing that it really had, like the only wake that makes its way towards Philly is that it takes one of the probably 2 actual spots that Brian Johnson could go, hurting the compensatory things. Other than that, sure. I mean, he wasn't a guy that was talked about for Eagles head coach or otherwise. Okay. Talked about that. Talking about the one final thing for 10 minutes. Divisional round of the playoffs. I'm assuming that probably everybody listening and hopefully yourself wanting the 49ers to lose, wanting the 49ers to not make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I want Detroit to win. Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want Detroit to win or do you want the 49ers to lose?
I want Detroit to win.
Okay. Because going into that Detroit game, after that Detroit Buccaneers game, after the 49ers foolishly won against the Packers, my thought was not, I want Detroit to win this game. It became, which one of these guys, Baker or Jared Goff, could beat the 49ers. And I was watching that game just hoping everybody stayed safe. Like I turned into a mom watching their son skateboard.
I think what it comes down to for me is the 49ers are by far the best team in the NFC, right? Best team remaining. They were the best team all year. But that game against the Packers showed that there is room for them to slip up.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's any team left that is more than capable of taking advantage of that, it is the Lions. The Lions have the weapons to attack the 49ers secondary, and I think they have the overall just mentality where they can get this San Francisco team in a grinded out, just slop fest that they can come out on top of. But at the same time, flip it. It's going to be critical to see how Detroit's defense responds to Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco offense. So it's basically a battle of the offenses, and I think whatever one does the best wins. And I know that's cliche, but I think that each offense has a different way that they can exploit the opposing defense.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, it. So I didn't realize that it was going to be raining that entirety of that Packers 49ers game. Actually, when I did preview it, I said that there wasn't going to be weather because it's California. Dead wrong. Brock Purdy stinks. Brock Purdy stinks.
You see, I can't say that after a game where it was torrentially downpouring.
Oh, you see him wipe his hand off? Can't throw a wet ball, Brock Purdy. Got tiny little baby hands, little Ken doll hands on his little stupid arms, on his poorly constructed arms, might I add. Weak soft tissue.
Here's the thing. You see that, and the next game he'll throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he'll be like, oh yeah, this is why this guy's like good. He's a good quarterback. He's not elite. He's not this best quarterback in the league material, but he is good. He is above average in the NFL, and he can do more than enough to lead San Francisco to wins.
Easily the worst quarterback they played this weekend.
I think he's better than Baker.
Oh.
Not by much. And I think Baker would do really good in that scheme, but Brock Purdy is trying to think of a comparison. He's like the guy that is just smooth around, like his routine, right? He does everything great in his routine. But when he begins to have different things pop up and have to deal with stuff outside of that specific routine, it's more of like a 50-50 if he'll be good at it, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I believe, because I actually had my iPad next to me, and everybody knows I'm a big iPad guy now. My life has changed, and I'm a big iPad guy. I took a note during the game. All right, so did you watch that whole game?
Majority of it.
Okay, there was one play where Brock Purdy thinks that Brandon Ayuk is going in one direction, and then but Brandon Ayuk cuts across the middle, and Brock Purdy throws a ball to absolutely no one. Like, you could argue it was going to be it should have been intentional grounding or something like that. But on this play, all right, these are my notes. If Purdy is throwing to a spot when no one is there, is he bad? That's my thesis. Brandon Ayuk cuts across immediately. There was no chance of him remotely being in the spot where the ball was thrown. This is proof that Brock is bad. Jalen Hurts would throw through that interception to DeAndre Swift when Swift cuts inside and outside. DeAndre Swift is in the area. That's an understandable miscommunication. What Brandon Ayuk did was cut. I mean, while Brock Purdy had like another second before he threw the ball, Brock Purdy's just throwing the ball into areas, and it's onto the receivers to be in that area. Brock Purdy's not making reads. He's not making decisions. The decisions are made there for him with the scheme.
I don't know about
Brock
that.
Purdy stinks, man.
I can't agree with that. Sorry. I can't.
That being said, it has been noted and recorded that I will find every reason I can to hate the people that I hate.
Yep.
Spiteful, vengeful, ire-filled.
Yep.
That's me. I don't know. I think you say Brock Purdy's going to throw for 400 yards. It's going to be Brock Purdy throwing the ball for checkdowns and then letting his guys run for 400 yards.
You see, it's funny because you say that. Yeah, he's had multiple occasions where he's hit deep. Like, he's not this guy that just can't throw the ball over 15 yards. Otherwise, Sam Darnold would have been starting this entire year. He's able to do it.
He can. He's a professional quarterback. But whenever he does, it's to somebody who's wide open, like how Brandon Ayuk probably should have been in that play. Yeah, he threw that ball 20 yards down the field, and if Brandon Ayuk was there, it probably would have been, if not 6, damn near close.
Yeah, but he's the quarterback for this offense, and there's a reason why it's working so well. It's not like the quarterback has to make the throws. Like, it's not all on, like, Shanahan deserves a lot of the credit, but he doesn't deserve every single piece of it.
The offense is good. I think Brock Purdy stinks.
Well,
I don't like that what you said makes sense.
We will agree to disagree on this. How about that?
I don't like that you made sense there. I don't appreciate that. I'm trying to vent, and what you're doing is like, oh, actually, I think the other gal at work made some sense. It's like, no, let me vent. And then Chiefs are going to Baltimore. That Baltimore crowd was loud. That I don't know how many penalties the Texans had on offense, like pre-snap penalties this season, but that was brutal what they had going on there.
Stroud with those two games, Stroud did his best. We had a
he's good.
lot of drops in that game that would have probably
Without Tank Dell.
Yeah, that probably would have changed a few drives. I think they still need to add one more weapon, and then they're all systems to go.
You think running back, or you think wide receiver?
Receiver. I think one more receiver. Not sure what mold. I would say maybe like a second round guy where you can move him in and out of the slot to give that versatility with Tank Dell. You already have Dalton Schultz. Like just to give defenses more of a matchup nightmare.
Do they have their second round pick, or did they trade that and a first to the Cardinals last year?
They might have traded the Yeah, I think they did trade the second. Yes.
Okay, I can't imagine they just did a first round pick swap.
But even then, if it's a late first, the same thing still applies, right?
Right.
Baltimore's a wagon. They're the best team in the AFC. They have one of my favorite defenses I've seen in a very long time.
It's so good.
And then the Chiefs-Bills game, right? Josh Allen is so damn good, but that Buffalo team does not help him.
Oh, is Stephon? What's wrong with Stephon Diggs?
I don't know.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. He will make some of the most amazing throws, and the one throw he doesn't make is at the end of the game, where it's like, okay, yes, he didn't hit the guy open in the end zone, and he missed it by what, a foot, maybe?
Yeah, and I think didn't he have somebody like hitting him while that was happening, or somebody getting pushed into him?
He was getting pressured. His line was getting pushed into him, but Stephon Diggs catches that one, or they don't have as many drops. Buffalo might not even be in that situation.
Oh,
so it's like, yeah, it's kind of funny that the wide right thing happens again to a organization that is just completely cursed. But they didn't lose that game because of a missed kick. They lost that game because, the offense didn't execute in terms of catching the ball a lot. And quite frankly, their defense just has too many injuries. Had too many injuries.
I think what went wrong is that I don't think they ran the ball with DeMar Hamlin enough. One time, you got to feed him the rock. You got to feed him the rock.
Sean McDermott has gotten bailed out for a lot of things that he said this year, but that specific play call, what he called, I saw a tweet and it was in the right vein, and it was absolutely the right assessment of the situation. It basically said Sean McDermott thought this was a Disney movie, and I was like, huh. Yeah. That's kind of the only logical conclusion you can come to this.
Character.
That is, you want to know what that call was? That's the call where I'm playing Madden, or I'm playing a game, and I accidentally hit the wrong button. But I happen to have no timeouts or don't want to burn a timeout. And I'm just like, screw it. Let's just see what happens. Here's the problem. That's not Madden. That is an NFL playoff game with real jobs and real stakes on the line. So, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes is inevitable. 6 years, 6 freaking AFC championship games. It's insane. And this is his worst team. They're going to add like 3 wide receivers next year, be putting up like 25, 30 a game again, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, we're back to this." Ugh. He literally has Kadarius Toney and Mecole Hardman on the same team. For
guys who would be on a roster.
Toney would still be on a roster because they'll be like, it's the eternal NFL I can fix him mentality. Hardman, not so much. But
MVS.
The fact that he has those two guys, MVS and Travis Kelce, who was not himself, and basically having Rashid Rice to rely on, the fact that he is still playing at this upper echelon level tells me that when he gets a really good wide receiver again, it's just going to be a repeat. It's just going to be a repeat.
Yeah, I don't like. That's why I don't want the Chiefs to win for a number of reasons, but I don't want it to just be at the hands of freaking Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's got such a bad team. Beat the team. Don't worry about beating Patrick Mahomes because you're not going to do that. Just beat the team. So brutal. So brutal. Mecole Hardman, I did see this, had a terrific stat line yesterday. I'm pulling it up. Mecole Hardman rushing 1 carry for -1 yards and a fumble, and receiving 1 reception for 2 yards. So, like, that guy's good, man. I'm glad that they got him back. I don't want that Chiefs team. I don't think they're going to stand a chance in Baltimore. They played that game. They played that game just so their prize is going to Baltimore and just getting absolutely boat raced. 3.5 is what the line is right now for that game.
Yeah, I don't know.
That'll be fun. All right, you got anything else?
I got nothing. It was another fun episode.
There we go. We actually had it was relatively structured, I think. We did some OC talk, we did some DC talk, conspiracies, always love that. Yeah. We even got a little act out. We got Sean Desai. That's good. That's very
We did
fun.
not go off the rails though, that much. So that was good.
We'll get there. We got an off season for that. All right. Thank you guys very much for watching. This has been the Nest and Inside the Eagles show. That is Brandon Pockris. My name is Jake Beckman. We'll talk to you later. Go Birds.